Hey everyone, how you doing today? You're all here early, and I really appreciate that. That's super supportive. So thank you so much. I can't wait to geek out today. It's been a while since I've done a live stream. Must be what, like a month or something like that. So let's have a look. Great you're all here. Gamer. We also have Ekta. I think I pronounced that right. You have to tell me how to pronounce that. Praduma, Priyanka, Chrissy. Dharani, awesome to have you all here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the support. I mean, let's get started. So today we're actually going to be working on this issue. Actually, I need to find the issue, which is building a rating system for repos, which I think is super interesting. There are some challenges, and I think some of the challenges are what kind of 3 questions is 3 a good number of questions to ask people to rate it. So let's yeah, let me know what you think in the chat. I'm quite curious. Let me just dig out the issue. Here we go. And I can then share it in the chat as well. So here is the issue, and let me bring it up on the screen as well. So repo rating, there's been a little bit of discussion on it, so do have a read and let us know. And I have updated the description. So I thought, how was onboarding? I thought that's quite a good question. What else? Like, I don't want to say don't want to be too specific. Like, how long did it take to get your pull request merged? How supportive was the repo? Is that a good question? I mean, you all can think about it, and we can start building it, and we can add the questions later. Add some background information who created the issue. Yeah, I think you created it for testimonials, and then I thought we changed it to no, and we did change it to be, I think, a bit simpler, because testimonials is a great idea, but then we can't kind of get a rating system out of that to give star rating to a repo. But yes, thank you, Chrissy, for raising the idea and starting off that conversation. And also, we weren't sure if people would be rude and stuff like that, so we just thought a star rating system, 1 to 5, maybe 1, 2, or 3 questions would probably be we don't need to manage it so much. So that's the plan. Gamer, it's on the screen is what we're doing, and we're going to add more to the issue. So yeah. So Chrissy, what came up with the idea? I know you contribute to quite a few projects, so let us know what gave you the idea. How helpful was the maintainer on your feedback? I like that. Let's put some of these in, and then we can have a bigger list, then we can shorten it and so forth. So how was the onboarding? How was the support? And then your one was how helpful were the maintainers, or is that similar to above? Maybe I can put like an or on those, that or that. Let's see what people think. Chris, you're not late. We just started a couple of minutes ago. Enjoy your meeting. Hope all goes well. Which team meeting is it for? Yeah, only accept ratings on people who contribute. That's a good point, actually. Can we get that from the GitHub API? I want to put that down as a question, and that's, you're right. But someone could raise an issue, and I don't think it marks them as a contributor. And I think that's still important, and they might have created content on it. So I don't know. We can put it as a question. Only allow contributors to rate. I'm not sure. I think that's harder said than done, because we want to include more people. We can get it, but does it include like issues and people who review pull requests? Because this is all part of it. So, hey Emma, how you doing? Hope you're doing good. Thanks for supporting on the Twitter space as well. Great to have you here. How's everyone's Sunday going? So, okay, so that's the thought at the moment. I'm gonna need all of your help to get this feature done, because I think it's not a massive feature, but I think it requires a bit of thought. So let's get started, and we can add more to this. So I've just updated that, so feel free to refresh the issue if you've got it open, and we can have a look. So there is a star rating in Tailwind that I think we could start using for the front end. So actually, let's make a list of things that we need to do in this issue. So let's have a look. Actions. So the action is, so one, or I say one, it might not do it first, but there will be the UI. So actually, maybe we can split this up. Let's put 1 for now. So UI, in the UI, we have to we're going to be able to add a star rating and display a star rating. So there's a couple of ways we can do this. So display star rating for repo, and then we've got UI allow user to give a star rating, and they'll only be allowed to do it once per user per repo. So we will make sure we enforce that. Then we have the API to I suppose get and save, get star rating for repo. We have to think about a bit about the architecture here, because some repos are added by multiple people, and so I think we should store the data in a separate collection. But let me know your thoughts. API is save star rating for repo from user only once. I have an idea on how to do that only once. Let me save that, so therefore you can refresh and you'll have access to it. Let me see who we've got in the chat. We'll just fetch the interactions on the repo. If an array more than one, we can take them. Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. That's good. Hey Graham, how you doing? Joined late to the Twitter space, but early to the live stream. So thanks for being here. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Live stream has days got better because of my video. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Well, while you're there, give the video a thumbs up. Help support everyone. Have you felt heard throughout your contribution? It's been waiting heavily on my mind since about hearing an incident that occurred at Grace Hopper celebration. I didn't hear about this incident. It'd be great to know a bit more about that. If you could share it here or in Discord, wherever you feel more comfortable. Can we share links? Yeah, let me. Most people can't, I think, but I can add you as a mod. Therefore, you should be able to share a link. Let me try and find it. Here we go. Add as moderator. I think that should work. Graham, I've just done that. Hopefully that works. Oh yeah, that's actually a good point. I actually like this. Graham, I have added you as a mod, but I prefer Chrissy's idea of adding it to the issue, or add it in both places, because I think in the chat it will get lost eventually, whereas in the issue it will be kept for longer. Yes, Emma agrees as well. Perfect. Great idea. Thanks, Graham. I appreciate it. If you add the issue as well, let me share the issue in the chat as well. I'm just going to try and do a proof of concept today, and then we'll see how we get on. Okay, so let's have a look. So I was going to use the star rating here. I think that's all we got to do, right? I think that's all. 2 UI pieces, and we need to do the model as well. Let's do the model first. Let's get straight onto that. Let's see. So can you all see model? We want to do a profile first, and hopefully it'll make sense. In profile, we do have somewhere here repos. Here we go. So we've got repos, and here's the schema for the repo. Why is that not going through to the file that I want? This is the profile, and then go through to that schema. There we go. So this is what we've got. We've got URL, name, full name. These are all from the repo. What we get from the user is just the URL, and everything else is pre-populated from GitHub. So, but multiple people can add it. So what we should probably do is, I would do things a little bit differently now, knowing what I know, but we are where we are. So let's just build on top of the, foundations we've got at the moment. Let's see. Okay, got some more things in the chat. What have I missed? Save star rating from repo from user only once. What if the user wants to update the rating? Yes, each time they give a star rating, it will just update their previous one. So no, great point. So it'll be once. They can do it multiple times. So if they gave it a 1 star and then they had a good experience and they went and gave it a 5 star, it will just override the 1 star to a 5 star. So thanks for bringing that up. Sure, Krish. Have a good meeting. Hopefully catch you later on. Hey, Priyankashu, how you doing? On the Xbox. Wow, that's cool. I didn't know you could do that. So my thinking is we need a separate collection that just stores repo kind of ratings, as it were. And then that way, if I add the same URL and you add it, then when it's displayed on your profile or in the list of repos for the app, then it will pull out the same rating. But now I'm also thinking, should the repo be moved out of the profile and just linked? This is a lot more work. Is there a lot more benefit? No, probably not. So let's just do that. So let me create a new model. Would we call it repo, or would it be misleading? Repo rating, I think, would be more specific. So let's just create that and see. Why is it not working? Here we go. New file. So we could do repo rating. Ratings is singular, right? Yes. So we've got this, and I can't remember the logic. So I'm gonna cheat and copy and paste it. So we wouldn't want an account. We would want to know the user, and we would want to keep it unique. So each document would be for a specific repo, and then we would list, but that could get quite long. I'm trying to think, or do we have a new document for each person that gives a rating? Let's see what people think. Hey, Slavin, awesome to have you here. Long time. Hope you're doing well. Ankit, yes, it has been a long time. Great to have you here. Awesome. Well, we've got to create some, I think, issues and pull requests for you to contribute to as well. So let us know if you want anything. Glad you're having a great weekend. So just thinking about it, then a repo rating should contain, let's just make a note at the top. So it would be who the user is, and it would also be the repo that it is. I think that's it. Oh, and the rating. Yes, thank you, GitHub Copilot. GitHub Copilot's awake. I'm not. And the rating, and I think that's what it would need to be. That's the one document, and then because then we could collect up all the repos and do. Oh, and the question. So the rating would probably be the rating. How would we do the rating? It would be a star rating. Let's actually start writing some JSON just to see what the document would look like. So it would be, okay, that's interesting. GitHub Copilot has done that. The rating, I disagree with the example it's giving us because it's just thinking of one kind of overall rating. But I think multiple ratings would make sense. But we'll come back to that. Let's just do it really kind of crude, let's say. So user, there will be, I don't know, just say user ID, user.id, for example. This is not valid. It's just, an example. And then we're going to say repo ID. I think this might be a bit of an issue because it's a nested object or nested collection within a document. So I'm not sure if we need like, no, we're going to do repo URL. Because when we search for this, we're going to search, I think, for the URL. So I think that should be okay. So that would be like a string of the URL, I think. And then rating, this is where it gets a bit more interesting because it will be the user, the repo, and the rating, I think, shouldn't be a number. I think should be an object. But the challenge is if we've got multiple questions, not everyone's going to use all the questions, so that's fine if it's an object or an array. But having an object, it might make it easier to update it. The problem is we don't want to display the name of the question or save the name of the question because we might reword it a bit better. Let's. Oh, you did on Discord. Okay, cool. Thanks, Chrissy. I'll have a look after the live stream. So this is quite an interesting one. So rating could be an object or an array. I think it will work the same. I think object might be easier, but how do we reference what the question is? So for example, just again, being really crude, if I just say question 1 and then the rating, and then it's going to be a rating. So it's going to be a number of whatever. And then we could have question 2. So on the front end, we would say kind of, we've pulled this document out, and so we know what repo it's for and so forth, or we've aggregated, added them all up and done an average for that repo. And we can say question 1, if it was how supportive, and again, just for simplicity reasons, was it supportive, and was it friendly? I don't know. They're kind of very similar, but just humor me for now. So we can pull question 1 and question 2 out. But where do we store what question 1 is and what question 2 is? Maybe in config? I don't want to store it in the database. I think maybe in config could be good. We don't really want it in the UI either, because you probably want to iterate over the questions and do it that way. Or is it having so many questions not valuable? Just have 1 rating, but then if project could have great documentation, but not very friendly and supportive, or vice versa, right? It could be super friendly and supportive, but not have the best documentation. So that's why I think different questions, because 1 overall rating is quite hard. Right, this is more difficult than I thought. Please throw your ideas in the chat, because I do need some help. I've made some suggestions, changes on pull requests. Can you review it? I'm not here to review people's pull requests at the moment. We're working on a feature at the moment. I will get the GitHub notification if you've made changes to it, and I'll have a look. Yeah, this is NoSQL. You're right, Graham. Graham, you're new to the project. You should be spending more of your weekends on BioDrop. I'm just joking. Yeah, it's NoSQL. So what we can do in Mongo is we can aggregate kind of all the question 1s, all the question 2s from different peoples, right? So this might be, if this was me, so I'll just say, I don't know, if this was Eddie, for example, it'll be an ID, but let's just, for now, this will be, I don't know, BioDrop. So it'll be github.io, for example, EddieHub community, and then BioDrop. It'll be like this. And then if I create another document, and then this would be something like Graham, BioDrop, and okay, I can give it a number. I'll give it 5 out of 5 because I'm biased. Graham gives it 4 and 5, for example, or 4 and 4, or 4 and 3, just again, for an example. So what we can do in Mongo is we can sum up and take an average of all the question 1s and all the question 2s. So I think having, question 1, not question 1 for here, but question 1 for you, is having multiple questions beneficial, which we could add to in the future as well. So let me know in the chat, yes or no. Is it, we can aggregate all the questions up and give an average for the repo as well in the API and then display on the front end. So we can do that even if we have multiple questions. My question is having multiple questions better than just 1 overall rating? Let me know in the chat. 1 and 1 are never kind. That's true, Graham. We all know. Very new. Awesome. New people to the project and to tech can add so much value to a project, because you have a fresh pair of eyes and you can say, this doesn't make sense. I'm new to the project. And we can improve the onboarding and documentation. So have a look at the GitHub repo. I will share it in the chat, and let us know what doesn't make sense and how we can improve it. I will share it in the chat now. So no one's writing in the chat. So is it because you're unsure that having multiple questions is beneficial or not? I think it is. I think it is. I don't know if there are any performance hits if you want to aggregate results storing in there. Maybe a list of all projects and the average rating could be compute intensive. I think Mongo's pretty good at doing those analytics. It will be more intensive. We do have a massive Mongo kind of instance. It should be okay. Yeah, it would be a more work, but I think it's worth it just having 1 overall number, in my opinion. I'd rather take the performance hit. And we could summarize it, right? We could save that calculation and cache it for 4 hours or 12 hours, 24 hours. I don't think the ratings are going to change that drastically over a day. So we could cache it if it does become a bit slow and a bit expensive. But that's something, yeah, we need to consider. Absolutely. Hey, Anu, how you doing? Yeah, I think I agree. I think different questions can provide a better understanding of the project, because I see people contributing to projects and they're not very friendly and they have a bad experience. So, yeah, that's true. I like that. Good point. Okay, so decision made by Ekta. We're going to have multiple questions. Okay, let's move on. So, multiple questions is all these little data files. Let me minimize that, because that's taking up a lot of space. So next thing is we should have a config directory, and We could have config for questions, I don't know, repo questions, for example, and that's where we could store the questions and their ID. So therefore, we can reference that. Repo questions. Does that look okay, Jason? What do you think? So in here, we could have an array of an array. No, we should have an object. I think an object, because then we don't have to do a find to get the question, but there's not going to be that many questions, like 3 or something. We don't have to do a find. We could just do kind of dot question 1. Let's do an array. Actually, I think it'll be. Let's see. So we will have array of objects, and it will be. Will it just be the question? No, because these will all be questions. So it would be the question. Would it be we call it the title, and then it will be a string. Shawshank Redemption? No, that's not correct. How again? We'll do proper questions later. I just want to how supportive are the maintainers? Is it an active project? I mean, that's another one. I think another question. But is there anything else we would have? Because now it's kind of even seeming more simple than I thought of what we would have. Because then we would reference that. So that would be question 1, and we could probably give it an ID to link the two together. Let's see. What if you change the question at some point in the future? Yes. So I think, say we wanted to reword this, make it a bit more like sound better, but it's the same question, then we could reword it here and it will display the same results because it would match it via an ID or something like that. But if we were to add a new question, then we would use the config file to display the ratings for that question. It might have none to begin with, and we would have to say that. It wouldn't be a 0 out of 5. It would be nothing to display. And then people will be able to rate again on that extra question. Because you're right, I'm sure we'll add questions to the future. And we could retire a question. So that's actually really good. Status, or no, I don't like that, is enabled. So that would be true. And then if I duplicate this, and then how active, for example, let's just, again, we'll improve these questions. This is just an example for now. How active is the community? We could say, if we had 5 questions and we want to add a new one, but we want to retire the old one, if we put false, we could then not display that question, but any ratings for it would stay. We just wouldn't display it anymore because we've retired that question, and we could add new ones. I want to make it a little bit dynamic, I suppose. Does that work? Have I missed anything? Yeah, we would need an ID, definitely. I'll add an ID so there's less confusion. So we can just say ID, and we can just, let's just put these in too. So if we go back to here, we can see that from user ID, it will be my ID in the database, but I don't want to add a number here right now for this example. And we've got I think this would be the GitHub URL that the person added, because that's going to be unique. It's going to be the same if multiple people add the repo as well. So that will be the URL, and we'll index on that. And then question 1 would be this first question. So I gave it a 5, Graham gave it a 4, and then if we don't enable it, it wouldn't be displayed to the user. That result would be hidden. But if there is a new question added, like a third one, when people start adding a rating for that, then that will start being displayed. Title can be changed to a short description of the question, like supportive, how supportive are maintainers? Yeah, that's true. So we could have, instead of an ID, we could use like a key, like supportive, as well. Or we could have, like you said, a fuller description if we wanted. That's true. Yeah, sounds good. Oh, you're thinking question 1 would refer to a different question. I think we wouldn't ever want to change that question like so drastically. If we reworded it, but it's still about, for example, how active is the community, and I think that's fine. If we were to retire, it would make it false, but it would stay in the config, I think. Yes, so question 1 would be the ID. I mean, we could put Q1, These don't have to be, these are strings, I suppose. Mongo is really good with that. So I could put that as Q1 and rather than question. There's a lot more work than I thought. It's quite interesting. When you start getting into something, you realize how much more work it is. And then when a new question comes up, Graham might add the question, and he gave it a 5, and then active. But I haven't got it, so it just wouldn't be included in the summary for me. But if I ever did add and kind of like update, revote again, it would just override my questions, be it for one of the questions or all of the questions and so on. Okay. I think that looks good. I think a separate collection makes sense, and then a document per person, because originally I was thinking a document per repo, but that could be, I think that could be quite messy. Documents will get quite big to have one document per repo. I think it's better to have more more documents rather than a bigger document, especially when they're the same. Okay, shall we try? I'm going to kind of copy and paste this so I can be a bit lazy with my imports. So let's have a look. What have we got? Actually, let's copy the repo one. I think that's probably closer to it. Here we go. URL, so that'll be exactly the same. Name, we want a user. So let me just copy that. And we'll comment this out for now because here we go. I think that's good. Delete that. Let's have a look. So let me get the end of the file. And we don't want the pre-hook because it will be an actual. Oh, I need to close this off. What have I missed? Close that one, and close. Okay. Looks good. We're not going to call it repo. We're going to call it repo rating. Repo rating. Here we go. Oh, did that badly. Repo rating schema. That should be, I think. And then repo rating schema here. Okay, so we said for each document, we're going to have a URL. We're also going to have user as well. So let me just grab that from profile because we've got a user here. This is going to reference to the user. So that's pretty convenient. What else did we say? And then the rating system. So we can go rating, and we said it was going to be an object. So therefore, we could go directly to it rather than it being an array. That's it. Question 1, 2, and 3. We don't. So each time we add a new question, we would, if we do it as an object, each time we add a new question, we'll have to add it to the schema. If we do it as an array, each time we add a question to the config, we wouldn't have to add it to the schema. But I think aggregations would be much harder on an array. Not because it's harder on an array, but because we're not doing all the array, we're doing question 1 and aggregate the average rating for question 1 and do the same for question 2. Whereas if I think if it's an object, it might be easier. Anyone want to share any thoughts in the chat? Let us know. We can also have an overall rating. Yes, that will be calculated by Mongo. So we won't store that anywhere. We'll just calculate that. We might cache it, but it would be stored. Absolutely. I think we'll probably, as we get more questions, we'll probably just display an overall rating and people maybe can expand or something like that. So what do we think? Rating as an object or an array? I think an object. And we just have to update the schema. We're not going to add more questions all the time anyway, so I think it's fine. So we'll just say Q1 number. And they've done 1 to 3. I think we'll have 3 questions to begin with, so let's just stick with that. I think that looks good. It looks okay. Do we want to do any joins? Let me think. Probably not just yet. So, okay, we've got repo questions. Questions 1, so let's just add a third one just to be consistent. And again, I don't know what the question is right now. How supportive are the maintainers? How active is the community? Just come up with a rough question. What did we put one in the issue, didn't we? Which was how helpful, supportive onboarding. Okay, I'll just write question 3 for now. That'll be question 3. We'll leave that. We should enable it actually, and we'll test when we disable it to make sure it is just ignored and no longer calculated. Okay, so we've got that. Not very visual. I bet some of you want to work on the UI stuff. I'm not the strongest on the UI, but let's have a look. Oh, is the repo active? Yes, that's a good question. We did have one around that, didn't we? The repo active. That's a good one. Thank you so much. Is the repo active there? Question 3. I might reorder these later on. Is the active question mark? Documentation. Yeah, that's another good one. Again, is that too many questions? We can add more for now and maybe kind of simplify it. Do we want to say rather than documentation, onboarding process? How is the onboarding process? Any more questions? Do add them to the issue so we don't forget. Right. So we've got that. Saving stuff is probably the first step, maybe because we won't have any data to display, or we could just work on some UI. What do you all feel like working on? Do some UI, is a bit more visual. I was going to steal these ratings from here. So if I go, how do they look? Out of 5. Here we go. Let me just steal this star rating. I'll need the import as well. And then localhost 3000. The project is not running. Let me start it up. I did go back to the main branch before the live stream, and I did do a pull to make sure I got the latest changes. And then always switch to another branch. Is this behind my head, or can you see it? It's behind my head, so that's terrible. Let me move my big head out of the way. There we go. So hopefully you can see it better. Git checkout -b, and we'll say feature, and we'll say repo ratings. So we're in that branch now. Let's run the project. Open a new tab so we can keep an eye on our changes. At the moment, we have those 2 files, and they're not tracked by GitHub. Yeah, Graham, this is where you come in to improve it all. Let me add it now before I forget later. Screen reader only. Well, I didn't copy any of that. I didn't paste the lines anywhere, so I need to copy them all again. Let's have a look. Wow, more than half an hour already. Time is flying when you're having fun. So here's the project, and if I go to repos, these are the repos. This is added by 2 of us. This is just my local. So there's a lot more in production. It's added by Nikhil, and this was added by me. So these are done. You can see by 2 different people, and you can see one that's added by 2 people. So I'm hoping that we did this yesterday where we dedupe repos appearing multiple times. I think we had BioDrop appear like 5 or 6 times on production. So I wanted to dedupe that, which I think works quite well. But now star rating, we could put it at the top right, or I could just put it at the bottom for now, and we could move it later. Let's just see how it looks. What do you all think? Let's get back to some code. So we've got that. Let me close profile. Let me close that as well. What we need next is that component. So let's have a look. So we scroll up to components. Let me reduce the GitHub directory. Got components. Let me reduce that. Events we don't need. Navbar we don't need. Statistics. Let's reduce this. So user repos. Is that the one? Might be, because that's how we started off. Let's have a look. Um, yeah, I think this is the component. Looks good. Yes, because you've got here now the two kind of badges with the stars and the forks. Um, so we would, hmm, if you've got one, we could display like kind of the average of all the questions on here, and then maybe you click on it and you go to a more detailed page to actually see the breakdown. What do you think? Let me read the chat and see what everyone's thinking about. Yeah, so thanks, Graham, for that. We'll do that now and we'll put it somewhere. Yes, so if we can, yeah, filter out or sort by the questions, I think would be good. So, how could we display it and where would we put it? Going to a separate page is not great because then you have to go into kind of each one. I suppose we could do it as an overlay, not great for mobile. Let's just get this. I did copy it and let's put it on here for now. We can tidy out later. I think I like to try and get like a low fidelity something kind of working-ish because at the moment we've got the model and the config, but it's not being used. So I'd love to try and kind of bring that in somehow, let's say. So maybe I will just stick it below added by, or maybe above, but we can sort that later on. So added by, let's put that here, and we can add this later. Just, I need to do the import as well. That's going to break otherwise. Import. How did that work? Oh, because we've included a star already. Okay, that did work. Usually things break and you don't know why. This worked and I didn't know why. But so you've got kind of a star rating here. And let's try and oh, that's fine. I mean, we can change the color as well. I don't know what the color would be, maybe yellow or something. But so you got a star rating for the repo. That would probably be the overall rating from all the questions. What do you think? And then how would we see the individual questions? Because if we expanded it to show all the questions, I think it would take up too much space, right? Because if we had it so it was, let me think. We might have to put a flex on this, but let me just question one. I'm not going to write out the question, but it would write out the question. And I think it would go flex. Be something like, again, it's not perfect styling. I mean, we could put a gap here if we want to. Question one, and then if we repeated that, we'll put this into a component, but just for now, I'm going to duplicate it just to kind of try and get a visual. Oh, that's not going to work. Let me see. We would need to duplicate the whole thing. There we go. So again, question two. So, and then question three, I think it would be two, because the question one is going to be a sentence. It's not just going to be question one. But maybe this comes back to what someone was saying in the chat, which is maybe we do something shorter rather than question one. Maybe saying supportive documentation. I don't know if that works. We will align this better. Ignore the and then if we just do one more again, just to see what three would look like, we would say active. Again, it's not taking up more space. So we could put, I suppose, them horizontally, like supportive, star rating, documentation, and active. And then maybe at the top right, an overall rating of the combined three. There's a few things that we could do. Just trying to kind of flush out ideas. Or let me see what I missed. Maybe, oh, there we go. Jumped too far. Maybe a drop down. Yeah, I suppose I'm thinking to have less steps for people, but then that's at the expense of losing real estate in the page. So need to have a think and see. A mini graph would be the UI element I would create for this, but given MVP, well, we have graphs. So what do you mean by mini graph? Do you have an example of what that would look like? Because that could be interesting to see. I don't know what the graph would be. Would it be bar, but that would take up more space, I think. Hmm. No, we'll probably have to. Yeah, you're right. You can't do 3.5 with this design. That's a good point. Um, I mean, there are other ways to do this. You can do it, and we could improve it later because we would get a calculation of 3.5, and we would round up or down, probably up. But then if I suppose it's 4.5, they're getting 5 stars, but it's not entirely true. Um, yeah, there are ways to have a percentage. I mean, we could do stars are quite nice because I think we've got a bar, not graph, but like a progress bar that we have on this page. Where is it? Oh, wait, yeah, so mine's 100% complete, so it's 100%, but we could do something like that. Then that would show more of a progress as an overall, maybe right at the top, kind of overall rating. But people are so used to stars being rating is the only thing, though. Thanks, Chrissy. Uh, yeah, it's gonna take a lot more space on the page. So challenges of it's not just building something; it's building something meaningful, and then it's figuring out how to display it and all the rest. So there's a lot of challenges here. I wonder if the whole layout needs to change. I don't want to do a whole redesign because we are redesigning this after Hacktoberfest. But I mean, we could try and put it on the right hand side. So here, so you've got this gray background here, for example. It could end about where my mouse is, and then just the rating on the side for it. So therefore, it doesn't make it higher, but then the description would be truncated or wrapped or something like that. Should we have a quick go, see if that would work? I don't know if it would. So let me see. Right chevron, and then this one. Is that going to be? If I just see where is this done with a flex or not, I can't remember. Let's have a look. So this is done, yeah, with a flex. So potentially we could put a third column. I mean, let me just humor me for a second. Let's see how this looks. Is it this one? No, it's this one. No, I thought they were wrapped in a div, but they weren't. So here we go. So it's that to that. So here we go. Let's cut this and see what it was. So if I hit save, it's gone, so it's good. And it looks like this. If I wrap it in a div, it will appreciate or respect the flex from above. And then if I paste this, it's obviously got its own flex inside. I think that should work. And we're going to go look at the UI and it's going to break, isn't it? Oh, actually, it kind of worked. That's actually what I had in mind. Did I explain that okay, or was it or badly? Is it better that I show you? Yeah. So my thinking was, on the right hand side, you have the rating like that. Again, it's just going to be a one word. I mean, you could hover it and get the full thing. Does that work for mobile view? It's going to be a bit more interesting. We might have to hide this and just show the overall rating on mobile view, I think. Let's see what you all think in the chat. So what you say, hey, it's a terrible idea, terrible. Let's see. Yeah, it could hover for more details. You're right. I think, yeah, we could do something like that. Yeah, I think yellow would be better than blue. I agree. I'm not worrying too much about the design. Supportive 4.5, documentation rule 4.5 and 5.5. So we could display a number and then round up the stars. I don't know. Oh, in one line. Yeah, that's what I was thinking to do along the bottom, but maybe I don't know. What do people think? Let's see. Oh, thanks, Graham. I can't copy and paste it out of StreamYard. Let me see if I can get it out of here. Let's have a look. Code biscuits. Oh, with explosions and stuff. Graham, that's too advanced for me. I need a simple life. But I think, it does highlight when I if you notice, I click on this, it shows me the closing one. That's all I need. It's just it was over a few pages. But thanks, Graham. Um, uh, what's this? I like them at the same. Make the space between the stars smaller. I think the pattern works. Okay. Yeah, probably could make that smaller. Yeah, I'm not looking too much. The height and width is 5, and they've got a gap of 1. So you're saying if I ditch the gap, let's just see how the first one looks. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's ditch the gap. Yeah. Or we should move to a component, it'd be much easier, which we will do. And just okay. And then I'd want them aligned like correctly as well. So I mean we could do I think you can do like put them both to the maximum size. I think I forget what it's called, justify between, I think. I can't figure that out later on. I can tidy that up later. You can all you don't need to watch me struggle with CSS. CSS. Graham says no. I don't know what the no is for. Graham's always telling me no. Graham, when are you going to say yes to something? No, I'm just joking. Move the stars 1 column to the left. Oh, okay, with a gap between. But I think we should justify them, like separate them, like space between. So therefore, the stars are aligned as well. But we'll tidy that up later. So how will someone rate a repo now? I'm just trying to get kind of like a high level understanding of how it all fits together, rather than focus too much on the UI. So if I haven't rated this, right? Say for example, I come to this repo, I haven't rated it. How could I give it a rating? I know I don't have it in my profile, so actually let's go to the second one. This is not on my profile, it's by someone else, by Nikhil. But I have contributed to this repo, or I've had some interaction with it. I want to give it a rating. How could I give it a rating? Would it click and then go to another page and allow me to see the full questions with the rating? But then if you're going to go to a full page and give the rating, then maybe it's worth, when you click on this, rather than going, at the moment it goes straight to the repo. Rather than going straight to the repo, maybe you go straight to that kind of overview page and you've got a button at the top right that says go to the repo, and you can see a bit more information about it. People could rate, and then they could see the rating and the full question as well. Yeah, I wonder if we put an extra step in, so it goes from this page to a rating page. I think Tailwind has some cool components we could probably use as well. Opens a modal, yeah, that's a possibility. So I like my page idea. I think it's got more longevity in that I could add more to the page, like bring in some activity from GitHub, like information from the API. Because we're bringing the stars and the forks and stuff. We could see. I mean, we know when it was last active, so we've got a date here, last activity. But we could maybe say, what was activity over the last 30 days? It's had 1 contribution, or it's had 100, so it's more active. We could even draw a graph. So I think having a page, I guess my question to all of you is having a page, clicking on this, going to another page, and then if you want to go to the repo, you click one more time, that bad? I just think there's so many benefits and pros. I don't know if I'm missing some negatives. Oh, stars without colors if you haven't rated it. Yeah, that could be interesting. It could be a different color, so it's like yellow if you've rated it, and then maybe like a different color if you haven't, or gray, like you said, so you can see the rating, but you haven't rated it yourself. Or we can have a little checkbox, rated, not checkbox, check, like mark. Yeah, I'm just thinking having a separate, an intermediate page that could be something like, let me show you what I mean and see what you think. There is something in here. Where is it? I think it was one of these. I can't remember which one it was. Not this one. Nope, not that one. That's boring. And that's boring too. There's one page that's got way too much information on it. No, it's not this one either. So we don't need all the information, but you can kind of get an idea of what I'm thinking about. It might be here. Page examples. Detailed screen. I think this was the one. Again, not this detailed, but for example, you could have the repo like icon, the repo name, and so forth. Then you could have go visit the repo, for example, and then at the top could potentially have the star rating you've given it, and it'll be empty if you haven't, and if you have, it'll be pre-populated, and then you could just update it if you wanted to, and then underneath we could have some graphs and some informations about the repo. I mean, even with activity here, we could just actually see the recent activity from GitHub, for example. So having, I guess my question is, ignore that navigation at the top. It would be like that. So I guess my question is, having a page like this, you need an extra step to go visit it. But is that so bad? Let's have a look. Oh, lots of stuff in the chat. Love it. Do not use colors to display information. Oh, okay. Interesting. Thank you very much for that. It's good to know. I didn't know that's not very accessible. Okay, cool. Chrissy's on board. Thinks an extra page would be good. Having a different page will explain a lot more about the repo. Yeah, I think so. Okay, cool. Got a bit of support there. Yeah, I think going to a different page to rate it and see more details. What do you think? You're not keen on it? Okay, cool. I'm not too keen on modals either because I find it makes the coding of the page of the file like a lot bigger. And we have a modal component that we could reuse, but still, the logic's kind of all there. And also on mobile, I hate modals on my mobile phone. So, okay, I think we're all in for a new page, so that's good. I'll keep this open here. So the new page. Oh, by the way, I want to celebrate something with you. We have 2 more profiles to get to 3,000 on BioDrop. So thank everyone for your support. I appreciate it. Let me give this a refresh and see if I opened this just before the live stream. So let me refresh it. No, we're still at 2,998. So great to see. Okay, so we could display it here, display it better, as Graham mentioned with spacing and stuff. And this obviously isn't aligned quite correctly. We want to nudge that over. And we can put a grow on the first flex item, and it will then push the second one over. And then you click on it, and you go to a page with more details. Okay, I'm liking that. That's my understanding. Let's have a look. When we have more than 5 questions, I don't think we'll ever have more than 5 questions. I think we will always retire a previous question if we found a better one. I think 5 questions is probably is the maximum we would ever want, in my opinion. I don't know anyone's thoughts, but having tried to do a survey for BioDrop, tweeted it twice to over 150,000 people, put it on LinkedIn, DM'd people, shared it in Discord that's got like 15,000 people, and only getting 11 forms filled in. Graham didn't fill it in. I was very upset. Like 6 questions, easy questions, Graham. But yeah, having like 11 people fill it in, and then me chase 7 other people by DMs a lot to get like 18 forms. I think too many questions will have maybe the negative effect. Okay, so nodal. That's a new advanced thing. We're not getting into that. I don't know what it is. Modal is more for specific. Yeah, I just think. Yeah, I'm leaning towards page. It might be more work, but I think it will be better. It have more longevity. We can add more to it later. So let's have a look. Okay, let's create this new page. What do you all think? Let's just create. Oh, and we should move this as well to a component, but I'm not going to commit this just yet, so we're okay. So with our new page, It's going to be generic, so it's not going to be to a user or anything. It's going to be specific to a repo. We have a repos page, so I think we should make a repos folder, and then in the URL it'll be our ID from the database. I think that's how we should do it. I mean, we could then, no reason why we couldn't log statistics to, so people can see how many times the link is clicked to go see the repo. I don't know. It's just a future kind of wacky idea. Let me just reduce documentation, reduce auth, reduce system, reduce profiles. Okay, let's have a look. Reduce manage. Oh, and reduce account. So I think we need, that's API anyway, in the wrong place. Okay, it shows I'm definitely not awake. Pages. Okay, so we have got account, admin, auth, docs. So I think we need a repo one. So the URL would read /repos / and then the ID. And we could move this file to be an index file in that directory. So therefore we're kind of grouping it all together. I think that could be quite good. Chrissy, with terms of the hateful comments, because we're not doing testimonials and it's just a star rating, then I don't think we have to worry about hateful comments. It will just, some might give it a 1 star, but when you've got 100 people giving like good stars the majority of the time, and you get someone being an idiot and just lying, then it's not going to affect the numbers so much. I think it should be okay. Okay, so let's have a look. So let's create a folder. I think it'll be repos. And then we could move repos into there, rename it to index. It should have the same effect. Update imports, yes, please. I don't know if that really works. So we can do that as index. Let's just check this page works. Up one to API. Does that make sense? That would work. Maybe the import has worked. Save it and see if that page works. So if there's page not found, that's fine. But it should be found now. Yes, okay. So it still works, but I have moved the file into the directory. And then in here, if I can remember correctly, we only want one parameter. So I think we can just call it ID. Yes. I don't think we want to catch everything. Will we ever want a second parameter? I don't think so. I think we can just do it as ID like that. I think that should work. And what we want to do is when you click the repo, it goes through to this page with the ID of the repo. Okay, I've just thought of a problem. Don't get alarmed. But remember I said, let me go back to the model and it will make more sense. Let me open profile. Remember I said in our profiles for BioDrop, your BioDrop profile, there is a repo section where you add the URL for the repo you want to include on your profile, and that gets aggregated up into the main page. So if I go to, for example, my profile, you can see I've got 2 repos, BioDrop and support, and those names are important because then you'll see we've got BioDrop by 2 people and support by me, and then EddieBot is not by me, it's somebody else. They're obviously not on my local system. I just changed the database for that to happen. The challenge is, what ID do we show when we go through? So we could show the ID of the repo rating, but we don't have any of those stats anymore because the stats are stored on the repo within that person's profile. So now I'm thinking we probably want to change the way we architect the data, which is always painful, especially with NoSQL solutions. The great thing about NoSQL is you can kind of do whatever you want practically. Downside is when you want to re-architect stuff, you don't have my database migrations where you can, with the code, migrate the data to new architecture. So what we could do is in the user's profile, we just store the URL and then all the, let me bring it up for you. Here we go. all the information we get from GitHub, like statistics and all the rest, we actually save that we rename this to maybe be a repo collection, and we store the repo information. So if you've added BioDrop URL, when it appears in your profile, it goes and gets it from that collection. If I've added it, it gets the same information. And it's a bit more efficient in terms of hitting the GitHub API and also storing the data. Not a massive difference, but a little bit more improvements. But then when we go through to that second page, we get the repo ID because we don't no longer kind of care too much about the person. Or do we care about the person? And then, okay, I'm going around in circles here. Just humor me. On not that page, where is it? On this page, we could show, I don't know, somewhere like this, like as in not this design, but just as an example. Eddie has added the repo, and someone else has added the repo, and Graham and Emma have added the repo. So Mongo is so flexible that some of these challenges occur because we could go to the profiles collection and bring out all the places that URL is actually used and list the person here, or we could store on here. So we don't do it every time. We could store on here the user. Oh God, there's so many different ways to do it. Let me see the chat. Give me a chance to kind of process it. Let's have a look. What have we got in the chat? Repo name. The reason why I won't use the repo name for two reasons. One, we did that with the links on people's profiles before, and it's real pain with the kind of special characters like / and all the rest. It's the URL encode and decode. The downside is if someone changes the name of their repo, all the data attached to it won't work. So we would rather change that URL or name in one place, and then do everything with IDs. So although that kind of, because it has to be repo name, but it has to be the owner of that repo, but that could all change because they could also transfer it. So thanks for the suggestion, but I did it that way last time for links and ended up being really, really painful. Hey Sandra, how you doing? I only recognize you from your profile picture, not the username, different username here. I keep thinking I will learn SQL solution and I see how complicated it becomes. It's great to get started. Like for prototyping, I think NoSQL is great. And for analytics and number crunching, it is also great. But then as the system grows, I think it becomes more painful. I do keep toying with the idea to switch to a NoSQL solution and migrate all the data over. But again, that's just a massive piece of work. The ORMs are a lot stricter in SQL, which I think is great because then you can have migrations, which means if you rename a column, when you deploy that code, before it deploys the code, it renames the column and then deploys the code and it will just work. And if you undo that, that commit or whatever, it will then rename, you have migrations up and migrations down. It will rename the column back to what it was. And you can even move data around to different tables and it will do all that migration for you. It's just brilliant, really, really good. Let's have a look. I think we can take the user to the repo when the user clicks on the URL on the heading and can take the user to the extra page when the user clicks on the right arrow. This will work. At the moment it's just one. The right arrow is attached to everything. So this whole thing, although you've got a right arrow, we could probably remove the right arrow because the whole thing is clickable. So we'd have to just break it up a little bit that way. Yeah, I didn't think of it before, but having made the mistake and learning the hard way, now I think of it. So yeah. Cool. Tech channel. Start it today. Tandra, today. I think you're in your time zone 1 hour ahead of me, I think. Is it 7 o'clock in the evening for you? Okay, we'll give you a break. It's dinner time. Start tomorrow. Okay, has everyone given this video a thumbs up, by the way? I still have to use my left hand for the thumbs up because my right hand, my finger's still broken. So it looks a bit weird when I do a thumbs up with my right hand. So yeah, still working on that. But at least now I can type. I can still use it, just not so good. Like bend it like that. It's so weird. Okay, right. So we've got star rating. I think we should go through to the extra page And again, we can improve this going along later on. So we made the extra page somewhere. Oh, the data. So what we're going to do about the data? Let's build the page, and we'll let the data idea just sit with you all and see what you think. So come down to the page. So we've got repos ID. Okay, so let's make this page. This is called now index. User repos we're going to keep open. The questions we'll keep open. We need that. We need that. We're going to close that. I like to kind of keep my tabs nice and clean. Let's make this a bit to the left. And profile will close for the moment as well. So we've got this page. I can't even remember what I need to do to create a page. So I'm going to kind of copy and paste it from somewhere else. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, it's just an export. I forgot. Well, I've still got to copy and paste it. Who am I kidding? And we would get the repo information. So let me just copy that and see. So we'll just return an empty thing here. It wouldn't be repos, it would be repos. So actually, let's leave that there for now, repo. And then we don't know what information will be, but it will be something like URL. And then we can just code something for now. From here, actually. Just do that for now. And then we have a bit more. Okay, so what else do we have in the page? We usually have header and those sorts of things. Let me just copy and paste that just to have something, and then we can remove it and tidy it up all later. This would be repo, and we could just pass in the URL. Oh no, repo.url. We can update the description later on. Let's just see if that works. So, we need to do one more thing. We need to update the link that we're going to click. So let's go back to here, and the URL at the moment goes to here, goes to repo URL. So we're going to want to actually change this. We're going to want it to go to our page with an ID. Let's just change that for now. So let's say it's repo underscore ID. Let's have a look. Save it and go back to the page. I think we could just hover it and see. No, it doesn't appear. Well, that didn't work. Why did I do that wrong? Is there another link on the page? Repo.url. Well, URL is nowhere else, so that should work. Save it. We're not going to open blank because we're going to be in the same app. I need to give it a path. That would make more sense. So we want to go to repos /. That makes more sense. You're all screaming at the page and going, Eddie, this doesn't work. Okay, that's fine. So what we've done is gone repos, and it's tried to put the URL in it. Why is it trying to put the URL in it? It must be somewhere else. Let's have a look. So I've definitely got ID there. Is there a link somewhere else in the page? No. The chevron hasn't got anything else over it. Where do we... The list doesn't have a link on it. That's interesting. This is where you're all shouting at the screen going, Eddie, I see it. It's on line 3.5. Let me check the chat and see. Well, I'll bring that back so you can have a look. No, the code back, I meant. Here we go. Let me bring the chat and see. One hour ahead. 1 hour. I can't even talk. 1 hour ahead. Awesome. I think it's time for me to get some dinner. So then I can query the data by a user ID for the user page. I can query by a repo ID for the repo. Yes, so we can get the repos, but we won't have any of the statistics because the statistics is saved in your profile and my profile. That's why I'm thinking we move the statistics to saving in the ratings area. Therefore, your profile and my profile can benefit from it, is what I'm thinking. Because we could join that data. If someone views your profile, it can come to the repo rating collection. Maybe it's just a repo collection. But the repo rating collection is rating per user. It's not per repo. So it's per repo and per user. So we might need another collection to aggregate that out. Or unless we store it with, there's pros and cons to doing it different ways. We store everyone's ratings for that repo in the same document. I think I need to sleep on this. This definitely needs more thought. But we can get this clicking link working first. And let's see. Have you all shouted at the screen? Oh. Oh, yes. Okay. So I thought I read that. My bad. I did read this one. As it belongs to both a user and repo, is a way to store it like in NoSQL. It's so flexible. You can do so many different things. And there's pros and cons to all of them. So this is where it's actually good to probably get on a more of a Discord call, and we can have like a conversation with people who are probably way smarter than me, and we can look at the pros and cons of doing it different ways. So yes, we can do it that way, and we can do it probably like 10 other ways as well. A rating collection, it is its own entity, then associated with user ID and repo, which is what we've got at the moment. But I'm using, where is it? I'm using URL because you'll have a URL in your profile. I'll have a URL in my profile for the repo. And then we're doing it with the user. And then it's the rating that I gave that repo. But where do we store the stats? Do we make an extra collection and say repo stats? And therefore, if you both add the same repo, it will check if there's stats available. If there are, then it will just use those. If there aren't, it will add it to that collection. So there's pros and cons, because the bigger the document, the faster it is. You don't have to do joins across kind of collections. But the smaller you do it, the more flexible it is. So it's just kind of, and there's other pros and cons. It's just finding that balance, really. Yeah, especially as the data grows, you need to have a think and see. But did anyone spot why me clicking that doesn't work? There is the link, and that should work. Because I'm not using URL anywhere else, so it was just used here. Repo_URL. So in theory, it should go to the repos and the repo's ID, unless the repo hasn't got an ID or the ID is, let's check, or the ID is the URL, which would be a bit weird. Here, let me see. So that's a bit small. Let me make it a bit bigger for you. Repos. Here we go. It does have an ID and it is an object. So it should be able to get that if it's returned, or it might not be returned in the API. Let me just quickly check in Chrome over here. So this is the data we get from our API. So we've grouped it together, so you can see these two profiles are having the same repo. Yeah, the ID is the ID is the URL. That's why it doesn't work. So this was a smart idea at one point, but I'm kind of regretting this decision because it's not the ID. But which ID will I choose? The one from me or the one from Nikhil? This is why maybe moving it out makes it a lot simpler, because we don't have these issues when we're trying to group things and dedupe things. Wow, fun and games. This is why things always take so much longer than they do. Postgres is calling. Yeah. But then to do analytics will be a lot more painful. So that's why on large projects that I've done for like UK government, we have done it with Postgres, and then the data gets exported to Elasticsearch. It's more like a cache, and we can do a lot of aggregations and averages over the days and weeks and months on Elasticsearch. But if that data ever kind of gets lost, we'll just regenerate it from the database. So Postgres would be our main source of information. We would definitely write to Postgres every time, but we would a lot of time read from Elastic. Yeah, I think that's what I got. No, I would need to have the curly brackets around it because of it being React. This is basically, I don't think I can do it without, but it wouldn't make a difference in this case because I've bodged up the URL. I need to have the brackets around it. Thanks for checking, because a lot of the time I would make a mistake, and things like that were super helpful. So thank you. But yes, I'm now thinking about the data. We're going for an hour and 15 minutes. It is Sunday. I want you to all have your Sunday back, as much time as you can to rest for the week. And let's have a think and see how we can do this data. I think it's something, if we are going to change, now is probably the time to change. But I think maybe having the repo URL in your profile makes sense, but then the rest of the data, maybe move it out to a collection, which would be repo model, so repos with an S collection, and then repo rating is the question is, does that stay as a separate collection, or does it go into the repos collection is the question. It's just, if it gets 1,000 ratings, that document will have 1,000 entries, which might have 3 or 4 or 5 questions from each person. So it could be quite a big document. So maybe a separate document makes sense. But then we would be joining across 3 collections, which is not what we want to do in Mongo. That's more like relational databases stuff. Challenges, questions, and all the rest. That's a really good point. It does give an ID to every object. Absolutely. I think we might have overwritten it in the API because we thought it would be smart. Oh, it's because we do the grouping. I will show you, and then probably a good place to end. Let's go to the API. Now, you're absolutely right. But what we did, which I thought was smart at the time, looking back, it is not smart. Repos. Here we go. So we do a group and we make the ID the URL because if you've added BioDrop and I've added BioDrop, which ID do we use? And it doesn't really matter in this case because we're not doing anything specific. So I just put the ID, we group it together. The usernames gets added to a new array, and then the URL becomes the ID. But and then with the stats that you have and I have will be the same. So we've just taken the first one. So whichever user is found first, we just take the first, name, URL, and owner and stats and stuff, because it'll be the same because it all comes from GitHub API. So maybe I think we need to move the stats out to a different collection. I'm thinking the more we discuss it, I'm thinking that we need to have the rating as a separate collection as well. So each rating is its own document. But let me know what you think. You know where to find me, everyone. I am in the EddieHub Discord every day, geeking out on your projects and also mostly on BioDrop. So let's chat. Let's bounce ideas and everything. And we will be having some Discord calls where I can hear your lovely voices, apart from Graham's. And we can chat about these ideas. So thanks, everyone. I think it's a good place to end. Have a great Sunday. And I will chat to you all soon. Bye, everyone.